Hey everybody! Alright, welcome to Review of Skills 2, right? So this one should be a little shorter, alright, because we're going to go over how to do the outside evidence or outside information, right? So some basics to start off, right? This is definitely the spot where having those resource sheets for all of your different time periods is going to be key, right? Now, the reason for this is because if you already have your packets completed for periods 3 through period 7, if you kept them, this is money right here. This is so great for you guys, right? Because you already have it. If you don't, figure it out, okay? That basically means you need to figure out some of these resource things. I am a person that I would prefer for myself, because I know how I work, that I would want them on paper, because then when I get that question on the 15th of May, I know that it's like if it's this time period or this time period, whichever one I'm going to need, I'm going to hold on to that one, keep it on my desk. The rest of the stuff I'm going to shove on the floor and be like, I don't need to look at that anymore, right? So then all I have in front of me is the stuff I need, okay? Now, you could have it still in a digital format if you want, but then what you're going to need to do is have that on your computer so you can toggle back and forth. Something that we're going to definitely talk about when we get to other things later, when we get actual prep for like what's test day going to look like, and again, we're going to wait till College Board brings us some stuff, is that you are going to need to have two things happening on your screen, okay? If you don't know how to do this, it's 2020, Google it, all right? Or ask a friend, right? But basically, you pull one thing over here, you pull one thing over here, they snap into place, right? You need a dual screen. The reason for this, right, is because you need to have on that actual AP College Board page that they're going to give you, you need it to have that little timer, which wherever they're going to put it, I don't know because they haven't sent us stuff that's like the sample. But you want that timer up on that screen, because if that timer has a little bit of time left on it, you know you got to wrap stuff up, because that's all the time you have. Now, on that note, since we're kind of talking about it, and again, all these things are kind of constantly changing, right? Lots of stuff going on in our heads. I definitely would, this is when I would call in some advice and help from people that are living in my house, okay? So a brother, a sister, mom, dad, somebody that when they know it's your test day, okay, you're going to log in. We're actually going to talk about how you're going to log in like 30 minutes early, just so then they're going to have some questions. You got to fill out some stuff, blah, blah, blah. And then 2 o'clock is when the actual test is going to start, okay? Now, when they know that, right, you can yell to them and be like, hey, start a timer right now, 40 minutes, right? And then just like when you've taken AP classes, AP tests before, you have the proctor that is like, you have 30 minutes left, you have 15 minutes left, 10 minutes left, etc., etc. You don't have that in this program. You don't have the physical proctor. That's what maybe your parents should do, okay, to help you out. They can have that timer going and they can be like, there's 10 minutes left, and they can tell you that, so then you know kind of your pacing, okay? Now, if you don't have that ability to have somebody do that for you, again, a younger brother or sister probably is going to be great at that because they love to tell you what to do, right? That's what they do. Right? But you're going to have that kind of like screen off to the side, so then you have to keep track of that. That is going to be one of the biggest issues I think with this test, is that you don't have a proctor to tell you when those time periods are up. You have to keep track of it yourself. So again, pull in those other people that live in your household to help you out with that. Okay, so again, let's move on from all that. Let's go to what our actual skill is for today, and that is going to be that outside evidence, that outside information. Now, when we went over the rubric, which if you have not looked at that video, go back to the blog, go link to that one, watch through that. We went through the entire rubric of this new version. Now, with this, you get 2 points for outside evidence, okay? Now, when we do outside evidence, these are going to be your terms, your people, your events. Again, your terms list that you should be pulling out from your unit packets, right? Have those out, because then you have a quick reference. You don't have to be like, oh my God, what is that guy's name? You look it up right there, okay? So that is going to make these 2 points, I feel like, a whole heck of a lot easier, right? Now, some of the things we got to look at with this is they cannot just be a random like, oh, here's this person's name, right? We have to give background on it. You basically have to tell who the person is, what the event is, what the term is, define it, and why does that link to what you're talking about? Okay, so you need to maybe have like 2 sentences for each one of these. Now, you get 1 point for having one piece of outside evidence. You get 2 points for having two. Now, what if I mess up? How many should I do? 3. All right, so I'm going to tell you guys for when you are practicing these, 2, 3. Do 3, okay? Because those should be 2 easy points you should get. If you would mess one up, that would just be tragic. So let's just do 3 because, again, we have those resource sheets. This should be a really easy way, right? Everybody should get contextualization. Everybody should get your thesis. You should get then your 2 points, okay? That's 4. That's a really great start. And we haven't really dived into the documents a lot. From the other video when we looked at contextualization and thesis, we did look through those documents really quickly. Now, to keep things kind of together, we're going to use those same documents to kind of figure out for this next video here with the outside evidence. Okay, so let's toggle over to those and let's have a quick reminder. Okay, so here was our question we had, which was evaluate the extent to the Great Depression changed society between 29 and 41. Right, and we got 5 documents here. Right, now when we say outside evidence, that means that if it's in the documents, we can't use it because it's already been given to you. Right, so when I had the first video, I did mention a few times when it was like, hey, here's some outside evidence here and there. Right, so what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of go through and make like a sheet. Okay, so to give you an idea of that, right, right, I'm going to have my sheet here. So since I might not have a printer on exam day, if I got a printer, awesome, I can write all over my documents just like we do in class or like on a traditional AP exam. But what if I don't have one, or what if it doesn't work, okay? This is what I can do instead, right? So we're just gonna, instead of writing doc 1, doc 2, blah, blah, that takes too much time. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay? Right, and what I'm gonna do while we're looking at these documents is we gotta figure out what are we gonna write down as that evidence that we could use, stuff that they don't talk about in there, right? This is also good, not just for our outside evidence, but also for when we get to our analysis of the documents, we could use historical context. We can use some of these also that we're writing down, okay? So this is gonna be a really good thing. That's what I would probably talk about, do like one of the first things when I'm looking at all of my documents, okay? So to do this, let's see if I can work this out here. Whoa, maybe not. Nope, that's not gonna work. Okay, I had an idea, but it doesn't always pan out, but it's totally fine. All right, so we got first here, all right, okay, number 1, all right, it's talking about the farmers. All right, you can pause the video real quick and read through this, but we did read through it in the other video, okay? So for this one, it's dealing with farmers. We know the farmers are having issues during the 1920s. We could reference that, but let's just stick to these terms. Let's make life simple, right? What New Deal program did they do to try to help farmers? Okay, and that's the AAA, okay? You could also talk about how the AAA was unconstitutional from the Supreme Court, right? And how it was basically an idea of government overreach. Okay, but the AAA was there to try to make things better for farmers, and they basically paid farmers not to grow crops, and this was to try and regulate the price of crops. So that's what you would talk about as your definition. You wouldn't just write, oh, the AAA. That's not going to be enough, right? So let's go down then to document 2. Document 2, it tells you it's Social Security, so we can't reference that, okay? Because that is already been told to us. That's not outside information. However, think about other things that could be along with this, right? This is maybe where you would talk about some of the people who opposed Roosevelt and his policies, right? So Social Security, we're giving out a check to people to help them out with their retirement or if they have disability and stuff like that. So this is where we could talk about Huey Long, right, and his Share the Wealth program, right? And we could also talk about Dr. Townsend, right? And he had the idea of a check for the elderly. But with that check that he had, right, is that you had to spend all of the money at the end of the month. So those are things where it's like we didn't use either one of those guys' ideas, but they are very, you could definitely see that there is a parallel here with Social Security, okay? right? Document 3, all right, we got a guy here from the United Mine Workers. What makes unions legal? That's the Wagner Act. Now again, we're not going over everything you could possibly be putting as outside information to go along with these things, but it's the idea where we're going to do kind of just like a simple overview. Okay, all right, document 4, all right, it's talking about, it's the New Deal review. It has the government is having this democratic action, all right, in the future has also been strengthened and renovated, all right, and they're not merely adding, not a matter of the addition of many new agencies, but of a more effective organization of the whole executive department. So here, you really need to talk about some of the things that are going on with the New Deal. So basically, just talk about all these ABC agencies, right? And how are they changing things? The courts have been ratified partly by legislation, but principles of excellence and new appointments, right? Maybe reference here how that there was an idea to do something with the courts that didn't turn out so well, and that would be the court packing scheme, right? And so with that, to remember that FDR tried to add like 15 judges, make it 15 instead of 9 on the Supreme Court, and everyone's like, whoa, what are you doing, right? That would definitely be something to be like, hey, they tried to do stuff, it didn't work out so well, okay? All right, and our last one, all right, okay, this is going to talk about African Americans and how not everyone is going to be included in these things. You could talk about how Eleanor, right, is going to be trying to help out African Americans. You could also talk about how, you know, that extreme poverty was happening, and during the Depression, right, African Americans had a 50% or higher unemployment rate, right? And so that kind of goes along with the idea that not everybody is being helped out, right? So let's see what all I wrote, which basically I just was writing down all the things we just talked about, right? And again, right, I'm writing it really fast because, you know, I don't have a lot of time when I'm taking my exam, right? But these are all things that I wrote down that the documents talk about but are not referenced. So these are things I can use for my historical context. This is for my analysis. So I can definitely use all these for my analysis. So that means anything that is not in the documents, I could use all these. I could also use anything that's not on this list that the documents don't talk about at all. So like the documents don't talk about tons and tons of things. So you could talk about the fireside chats that FDR had, right, where he's trying to make the country, unite us all back together. You could talk about all the things that he's doing, the 100 days, having the brain trust, all those things that aren't talked at all in these. These I'm using as my historical context, but doing this exercise here, when I first look through the documents, make sure that I am not referencing something as outside information that is in the documents, right? Also, I don't want to use these things. Like, I don't want to have outside information about the Wagner Act because I want to use it to get my analysis over here, right? Hopefully that makes sense for you guys, okay? Right? So if I would be, say, talking about for my outside information, I want to talk about how the country is changing in how they view the national government, right? And I want some examples of that. So let's go back to that idea I had of the fireside chats, the brain trust, right? Okay, which is the new cabinet. And those are the two things I want to talk about. I'm going to come up with a third one just in case, okay? So again, you guys can come up with anything you want from this time period, right? Let's go with the first 100 days, okay? Right, again, sorry about my handwriting, but deal, right? So when I'm talking about these things, I want to, one, talk about them, have a definition. So first off, I want to define, right? And then how does it fit in my story? Okay, so that's what I want to do for these. Now, here's a big tip. Right? It's very important. Okay, right? This big tip here is that I don't want the person reading my essay to think that these things I've talked about here are historical context, okay, for my analysis, right? Because all of these things are outside information here, but so are these, right? So I want to be able to use these here as my historical context for my analysis later on, and then I want to use these for my outside information, okay? So that means when I start talking about this, new small paragraph. Okay? Right? So say if I am going to talk about Eleanor, okay, and how she's trying to help out African Americans. She's a member of the NAACP in Washington, right? African Americans are struggling with 50% or more unemployment during the Depression, right? And that these changes of how Eleanor is trying to get involved were discussed with the fireside chats, right? I'm going to talk about this with my document, and then I'm going to make a new little itty bitty paragraph that's like 3 sentences where I'm going to talk about this guy, okay? Right? So again, making those small little paragraphs. Also with this, if these items for outside information are not directly related to my documents, then the reader also knows that I'm adding an additional piece of information. It's not going to be analysis of my document. It's like, oh, here's about the document, and then here's something else that sparked my thoughts. Okay? So again, we want it to be separate. Making that separate little paragraph helps out a little bit, right? But is not always super necessary. But I would do it just because it's like, why not, right? If I'm talking about subject A and I got a little bit of subject AB, right? I'm going to have a new itty bitty paragraph, okay? So whenever you have new thoughts and new idea, like, hey, new outside information, just make a new little paragraph, right? It's totally fine. Again, these are supposed to be rough drafts, so your idea of like, oh, it needs to be this perfect 5-paragraph essay is not going to work in this situation, okay? Right? That would be if you would be able to revise your essay, which you don't get to do that, right? So in small little paragraphs, right? And this is what I would use actually for my outside information in my essay for this, right? All of this that I found, it tells me what I can talk about with these documents. I could use these as my outside information as well, right? But I might want to hold on to them to use as this historical context for my analysis, okay? Right? So that's kind of to help you out, where this is the easy list of things that if I have my resource page for period 7 out, when I look at this essay, I can find all of these things and just make a quick list, or I could just write on my resource packet. Like, are you going to use it again? No, right? So just go ahead and write on those, and like with a big old highlighter and things like that, right? Or you can write it out like I did, okay? Really, it's up to you of how you want to do that. But hopefully this video here has helped you guys, right? Hopefully it's helped to kind of figure out with that outside information. It seems super simple at first, and really it is pretty simple, right? But we just got to make sure we're putting it in the right places, right? Okay, make sure it's that separate thought, that separate paragraph, and make sure you're not sticking yourself into a spot, like into a corner where you're like, ooh, I have this outside piece of information, but then you're like, wait, I want to use that as my historical context. Or the person reading it, like me, I'm going to be reading these, okay? Because I'm going to be doing the AP reading from home. It's going to be awful too, right? It's going to be bad. But when that person's reading your essay, if I'm reading it and I see, oh, that relates to this document, I'm going to check it off as historical context for your analysis, right? If it's in a separate paragraph or something that's related but not directly to that document, I'm going to know that's outside information. So hopefully, again, that makes sense. If you need a little bit more help on this, please ask. But again, we want to get 3 of those things in there, right? Just because that kind of locks us into getting those 2 points, right? And again, go through, figure out when you're looking at all your documents. Basically what you want to do when you first get those documents, look through all of them, and again, go through this exercise we just did, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, here's what I could write about those different documents. This is what's going on, right? And then that way you don't have to go back and look at the documents again, right? You only want to look at those documents once, right? And then move on, okay? Because you need to use as much of that 45 minutes for your writing, for that typing part, as you can, right? And again, when you guys do those practices, please use your timing, okay? Now, I realize some people are going to be like, oh, but it's for a grade because I'm in spring semester. Yeah, those people might use more time, but we really need to practice using our timer, okay? Right? We need to make sure that we can do this on test day in that time that's allotted, okay? So try as best you can to practice how long it takes you to do it, okay? Do not worry about the idea of it being a grade for class. focus more on it, the practice, right? The more that we practice, again, we're going to do 5 of them, right? 4 are going to be the main ones I want you to do. The 5th one is more for like that last minute thing, and that's really going to depend on if you have any exams early in that first week, right? Remember, ours is going to be on the 15th at 2 p.m. I think I've said that a million times now in these videos, but I'm going to keep saying it. All right, so if you have one of the exams that's earlier in that week, right, you might not be able to do that last one, but that's totally okay, right? Okay, again, make sure you try to at least do the 4 practice ones, right? I'm going to post the other practice one up on the blog later today, so that'll be there for you guys. Definitely make sure you're doing as much as you can to practice, right? These are the ways I'm going to try to help you guys out, okay? But we're going to do fine, all right? And again, if you're kind of in a panic mode at any point, I did give you guys some motivational videos that I thought were super cute. And also go back to that rubric page, right? So go back to that rubric video. I broke it down, right? That should have really helped people out to make sure that they're kind of like, calming some of those anxieties and that sort of thing. I believe every single person in our classes, right, should have no problem getting a 7 or 8 out of 10 on this DBQ with the strategies that we looked at. So we should be good. If you have not checked on your College Board account, make sure you can log in. If you can log into your to my AP, right, and you can log in there and you can see all of your classes that you are currently enrolled in for taking an AP exam, you're fine. If you're not getting the emails from College Board, you do have to wait till they send another one out if you've changed your email. But if for some reason you can't get the emails from them, or you're not getting them for whatever reason is happening, you can still find all the information you need on College Board's website. And again, as things kind of come out here and there, I will definitely let you guys know. Make sure you're getting all the reminds. If you know you're getting them, but you know a friend that's been in the class that you don't think they are, or you haven't heard from them or anything like that, do each other a favor. Check in with each other. Make sure, like, hey, you're getting the reminds, because I send out a lot of things, and a lot of people just leave me on read. It's sad, man. Right? It makes me a little sad. Okay. But again, go back, look at all those videos. I'm gonna try and keep these pumping out for you guys, and yeah, right? We got it. We got this. Okay? Just hope for a good prompt. That's all I gotta pray for. Hope for a good prompt. Right? It's probably not gonna be the progressives, because that was the prompt from last year. So, but everything else is really fair game. Period 3 to period 7. So we got this though. Okay. Love you guys. See you later. All right. All's gonna be fine.